What do you see happening? I think you both acknowledge something major is changing in academic circles. The reality is, I think on the ground, in terms of what's being taught in the average high school textbook or, the popular level narratives, everyone still assumes this is a blind, purposeless process. That's what we've been told. That's what everyone believes. So, Dennis, do you think that kind of popular level understanding is also going to change in due course as we see a changing of the guard, really, in the academy?
Well, that's precisely what I experienced during my 2.5-week lecture tour. 9 lectures, many interviews, television appearances, and so on. It's precisely what I saw and witnessed happening in Korea. The opposition to the view that organisms are purposeful seems to have disappeared. That's the reality of the situation. I can imagine that might happen here, and particularly here in the UK at the moment. There is incidentally a difference, particularly in the arguments between evolutionary biologists and religious thinkers, a big difference between the United Kingdom and other parts of Europe and the United States. I think, if I can sum it up, the United States is still facing a direct clash between the two, as though you cannot at one and the same time be subscribing to the view that there is an evolutionary process of whatever kind, whether purposeful or not, and be at the same time a religious believer of one kind or another. But you see, over here in the UK, the great majority of religious believers I talk to are not questioning the process of evolution at all. It's as though the story is a dead one. It is, and now, of course, there are some extreme groups that would still maintain the old-fashioned view that you cannot be a particular kind of religious convinced person and at the same time accept there's an evolutionary process. But by and large, that's no longer debated as a serious issue. That means that it's quite possible that the United Kingdom quite soon will experience the same kind of transition that's already occurred in Korea, as the example from my experience in October. I'm very much hoping that that's going to be the case.
And just sticking with you for a moment there, Dennis, I don't know how much interest you take in other areas, but my feeling is that it's interesting that this goes alongside other areas of philosophy and academia, where there are, again, it seems to be a pushback against a sort of very materialist, determinist, reductionist perspective, i.e.
absolutely.
The area of consciousness, which you've already alluded to, where I think, the Dennett deterministic sort of viewpoint is being pushed back. Now, not necessarily by some sort of theistic model, but certainly by people who are, seeing panpsychism, consciousness, those kinds of things as somehow, necessary and so on. So do you see this as potentially, about a paradigm shift in kind of the worldview, this idea, this worldview that has been so predominant that we live in this completely material, reductionist, deterministic universe, that people simply are, I guess, pushing back on that and saying, no, let's think about alternative explanations for reality?
I am certainly not alone. I'm reviewing a book at the moment that says exactly the same thing. I'll have a review very soon, published in one of the top science journals in the world, Nature. I think there's quite a lot of us now who are of the view that the idea that we can remove from the domain of scientific investigation one of the key properties of organisms, remember the box here, that is agency and purpose. There are many now who would go along with what I'm arguing. I get no pushback at all now in what I propose on this. On the contrary, we have only in the last year had several special issues of journals, special productions of books in parts of series that have been portraying exactly this kind of question. So all the way from 2016, when there was an attempt to actually get the Royal Society meeting cancelled. That actually happened. All the way from there to now, we've seen a shift in position. And I think it's not impossible that at some stage in the near future, this view that we have to regard organisms as purposive, and that's something for us to investigate as scientists, I can see that becoming the standard view. But there's a prediction. You'll find out in, say, 10 years' time whether I'm right.
Yes, indeed.